So, I wanted to present another aspect to uh, this whole situation between men and women. I wanted to present another way that another way to look at it, another perspective of looking at it, is that you know the reason why you see men and women in this duality is because that's exactly what it is. It's a duality, and but by nature, we as people are dualistic, meaning that we have a good side of us and we also have a bad side of us. We do good things and we do bad things. And what they're doing, I think, is they're trying to play or favor one side versus the other. And I think what we find with this whole man versus woman duality is that think about it as it breaks down into many different categories. You have just man and woman as a gender fighting against the pure fact of the fact that they're either a man or a woman. Then you have another level below that, speaking in terms of this whole duality psychology of what's going on here. Below that, you have another level, which is the own individual's dualities. So women have their own duality. So on one aspect, they have, they teach women to be princesses. They teach them to be kind and loving and all this other bullshit. Motherly and all this other stuff. But on the other hand, they have the, go out, get drunk, get knocked up, be a bad girl type bullshit. Want to be a man and want to kick ass type crap. On the man side, you have the same thing. You have the men that are being told to go out there and fight and do what's right and do all this other stuff. But on one end, you have the fact that, the other aspect of that kind of the softer side, if you want to call it that. I don't know really how to describe it, but turning man into women is the whole point of it all. And so what's going on here is it's inversion and it's duality. And what they're trying to do is get people to be broken down to a point where people become a singularity. A singularity means everybody acts the same way at the same time, doing the same thing, with the same mentality, same mindset, same clothes, and genderless, asexual singularity. That's another aspect of, I think, what is going on here, because you see, it really has nothing to do with the fact that men hate women. Women hate men because of the fact that we're stronger, we make more money, we're more powerful, we're patriarchal, and our behaviors reflect that. It really has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with was the process of getting the genders to be broken down to such a degree that they could then become more guided, moldable, however you want to describe it, into the ultimate end goal, which is this asexual, genderless singularity. And the point of this singularity is the fact that it's trying to get people to, like I said, walk in line how, when, and where they want them to. So when we're looking at this battle between the sexes, and I'm just bringing up another perspective that we can look at this all. The biggest talking point that I see a lot of people in this area of study find themselves in is they only focus on one aspect of this controlling, breaking down of one's own identity or psychology. They only think about feminism, and that's it. It's feminism, and that's all it is. It's not all it is. It's much more complicated than that. But the end goal, I think, is this, where people ultimately end up becoming to a point where, we already see it going on today with this gay, transsexual garbage. And, it's all designed to keep people genderless. That's ultimately the end goal here. It's to teach the sexes how to become genderless so that they become basically they become asexual. In the sense that they do not identify themselves with one gender or the other. And this is where you get all of the LGBTQ, trans, I can't even think of, all the names that they add, because it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. They come up with names. That's the point. It doesn't mean anything. You're either a man or you're a fucking woman. That's it. That is it. All right? We're not aliens or another species, at least if you're considered a human, where we're born with different genitalia. Yeah, you have hermaphrodites and all that shit, but that's an abnormality. That's not normal. You get what I'm saying? That's not normal. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The whole point, again, another way to look at it, the reason why men and women are such in a kerfuffle right now and why things are so fucked up is because they're trying to destroy and break down individually via various tactics so that people do not have an identity and they become more dissociative. Like, when you pull apart Play-Doh from the center, you take the Play-Doh and you pull it apart. You see how when you pull it apart, it becomes the stringier and stringier, and eventually it becomes thinner and breaks away into two different things. That's what they're trying to do with our psychology. By turning men into women and women into men, to confuse the natural order of things, and then you bring in the transsexual LGBTQ movement bullshit agenda to come in, and you can identify with whatever you want. Pick a name, any name. I want to identify myself as an ice cream fucking cone. Okay, cool. That sounds great. We're now going to put that in the books. Gender ice cream cone. That's what I am. I'm a fucking ice cream cone. It's a whole bunch of junk. It's a bunch of talk garbage. It's not just the feminist agenda that is doing this. It's just one of the tools that was being used. You don't just use a fire extinguisher to put out a house fire. It's a tool that is used for smaller fires, but you use a hose from a fire hydrant with high water pressure to put out a house fire. Okay? If you got your keys locked in the car, you wouldn't just break the window. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd use tools so that you wouldn't go through that. What I'm trying to say is, feminism was just a tool that was used as the battering ram, so that once they got into our psyche, in these women's psyche, they could begin to manipulate. It's not a straightforward path. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Why the genders are so screwed up. It isn't a straightforward path about why women or men are in the position that they're in. It was a lot of work and a lot of time with various different elements thrown into the bunch to create what we see today. It's not just social media. It's not just Facebook or the princess movies or raising them up to be narcissists or the dating sites or the gender politics or the gender identification crap. Do you see how all these are different things? It's because they're all being used. It's not just one thing. So don't get stuck on just feminism, about why we see the chaos that we see going on today with your modern day women. It is the use of all of those things. That is why we see the women today act the way they act, talk the way that they talk, do the things that they do, and have the behavior that they have. It's like a corporation. Everybody wants to have their piece of the pie in it. Well, the same thing applies with the genders. Corporations want to have their piece of the pie in your mind. And every faction is working on the same level for that piece of the pie. if you were to take the brain and have it cut into 8 pieces, well, each of those 8 pieces is a different faction that is being used to control the brain. So it's not just feminism controlling the whole brain, it's all the different factions that are. That's why this is so hard to figure out, because people think that it's just either one thing or the other thing. It's the conglomeration of all of those things. When you have women that grow up and watch princess movies and Disney movies their whole life and are told that you're so special, that's one faction. The next faction that happens is they go to school and they find out that the boys will pick up the pencil for them when they drop it, and that the girls get to go first, and the girls get to have all the doors open first for them, and they get to eat first, and they get priority, and they get treated differently from their behavior. Okay, that's the second faction of all of this, if you're looking at it from a pie of 8. Second faction. Then you have, from that point in school, you have the media. You got the entertainment that the kids watch at that young age in school, whatever, goes through school. That's the whole point. It's brainwashing. Okay, then you have the media, the music, and then what all the other friends are doing. That's the third faction. So you can see how all of these different things begin to add up about why women are the way they are. It's not just feminism. It's not just feminism. It is multiple institutions and factions that are being used to control women and why they act the way that they act. You see, it took me a long time to finally figure this out, and I haven't really figured out the really deep level of why men and women are so in duality. You can argue it has to go back to the Garden of Eden, whether, you can have all those arguments. I'm still trying to figure it out for myself, but I think that, it took me a long time to figure out, why is things so fucked up? Why do they treat men horribly? Why are they such in a bad mood? Why do they act like evil, Well, the reason why is because, the people that are controlling it are evil. It took me a long time to figure out that it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. A lot of guys make videos on this subject saying, it's the feminists, it's the feminists, it's the feminists. No, that's just one of the 8. If you want to look at it, like in a pie, it's equal. It's multiple people involved that are causing the problems that you see on men's side and women's side. You want to look at the man's side, okay, well, they tell us to go. You have to act a certain way. You got to be a certain way. You got to talk a certain way. You got to carry yourself a certain way. You got to put up with a certain amount of shit. And you got to put up with all this garbage. You see the same principle applies for us and them. That's why we're in duality, because both sides are being controlled. They're just being pulled from opposite ends. So it's not just the feminists about why women are the way they are. It's a multitude of things. But going back to what I was saying, and I'm going to wrap this video up. When you have all these different factions that are involved with their own psychology, identity, and the working of a woman, a female, in the gender sense of the word, when you raise them from birth to the time they get to a toddler and they have all these princess garbage, clothes and TV and media, then you introduce another aspect of it, which is the school system, in combination with those two and all the other ones. You can see how this can really, it's chaos. It's, I had a gentleman comment saying it's spiritual alchemy, and that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is, because it is how do I describe it? Oh my gosh. What is going on is that when you put 2 and 2 together, like when you're mixing a cake, you come up with different tastes, textures, and ways that it cooks. Because if you only put egg and water in there, it's going to come out differently than if you were to add all the ingredients. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't just add in milk and eggs and have cake batter. It doesn't work that way. You have to add in the flour and the sugar. The spiritual alchemy, in terms of manipulating people on a spiritual level, the same principle applies. When you start throwing in shit, experimenting with different mixes of stuff, you end up finding yourself with a mixture of just of this stuff. And that's what they're trying to do when we see all these different factions that are being manipulated on the female sex against the male. I'm trying to figure out another way I can describe this. You know, the cake mix thing is the best way, but just to sum this up, that we can't look at just feminism to think that that's the only thing controlling this, because it's not. Like I said, it is alchemy going on. It is alchemy of mixing different ingredients of manipulation, lies, and different aspects of this in the spiritual body, because that's what controls the body. We're thinking about the woman here, about why they are. When you start mixing shit to get a certain specific result, and you start experimenting with different things, you're going to come out with different textures, different tastes, and different ways of cooking whatever that is. And so that's what that means. And the same principle of that explanation applies to why women are acting the way that they're acting. They're performing alchemy on different individuals, man and woman, just thinking about them as just, in this example, man and woman, to get an end result, which I think the end result of all of these different culminations of things added into the mixing bowl create asexuality and singularity. And that's what that gentleman was trying, that's what he's talking about. And I didn't even begin to think about it. This all just came to my head. Off the bat, I didn't even spend time to even look it up, which is kind of weird, but anyways, that's the whole point of what I'm trying to explain here, is that we have to look out. We can't just look on a microscope through one magnification. You know, if we magnify, when you look at a magnifying glass, or I'm sorry, a microscope, you can't just have the 10 or the 30 or the 50 time magnification. The more centered the magnification is, the less you see of the bigger picture. When you pull back and you get a bigger picture, you lessen the focus of the magnoscope, then you begin to see more of the cell. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what we have to be able to do. We have to be able to look at the bigger picture is basically what I'm trying to say. Don't just look at your hand. Look at what's moving the hand. It's all these different factions. That's why women are acting. This is why it's so difficult to understand, because this stuff is very, you know, it's just something you either know it or you don't. That's all I can say. I do not know how to explain how my own mind works sometimes. I really don't. It just comes to me and I just say it. That's just how I am. Every time I make these videos, it just all comes to my mind. I don't sit there and write a script or any of that stuff, or think about topics and then go through. No, it's free flow. You know, so it's different factions, and we have to learn that there's much more going on here than what meets the eye. It is alchemy. The reason why women are acting the way that they're acting is because it is a culmination of different ingredients: feminism, social justice warriors, Disney princess movies, school structure and response, such as how women are, like I said, this basic social psychology between men and women. When the girl drops a pencil, the guy picks it up because he wants to act like he likes her. That's another mix. Then you got the spiritual aspect, the digital media, the social media, and then you got then you got all the girlfriends. You throw all this stuff and then you start mixing shit like a freaking witch, because that's what the symbolic of alchemy is, a witch, mixing the potions together. And then what you find, the end result of what that mix becomes is your modern day woman today. It is the manipulation of this alchemy. And this is why men and women are against each other, because different forms of alchemy are being used on different sides. And they're going to take those mixes from this side and that side, and they're going to throw them together and see what else they can, and see what they can do. And when you throw those mixes together, listen to me very carefully, when you throw those mixes together, right? You mix up a whole bunch of shit on the female psychology, you know, all this stuff. You mix up a whole bunch of shit on the male psychology, you know, teach men to act a certain way and this and that. And then you mix all that together, and you have one mix, and then you have another mix. One for the man, one for the woman. And then what they're trying to do is put those mixes together and mix that up. And that is where we find asexuality, the transgender, where men are turning into women. Or they're actually, let me tell you something. It has nothing to do with just man becoming woman or woman becoming man. It is the culmination of those two being mixed together. It's called asexuality. That's what they're doing. That's why I said it's the end goal here. Because they're trying to make man and woman together in the same body. Do you see what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with a man saying, I want to be a woman. No, it is the incorporation of man and woman in the same body. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do with this. It has nothing to do with some crazy guy that all of a sudden thinks that he's going to be a woman. No, because you're a man. They're trying to mix it together. They're trying to make man and woman the same thing in the same body. That is what is going on here.